Let me tell you something right now. Comfort zones, they ain't safety nets, they're graveyards. Every dream that dies, every goal that gets buried, it happens right there in that space you call comfortable. You weren't built to play small. You weren't created to stay average. You were born to push the grind, to break limits. Comfort zones are cemeteries of potential. And if you stay there, your greatness dies with you. Comfort kills growth because it lulls you into believing that where you are is enough, that what you've done is the ceiling of your capability, that the little comfort you've achieved is worth more than the greatness waiting on the other side of discomfort. Comfort seduces you with routines, with predictable outcomes, with that false sense of security that whispers in your ear, stay here, you're safe. But the truth is, safety is often the enemy of progress. The very moment you settle into comfort, your growth begins to slow down, sometimes so gradually that you don't even notice it, until one day you look back and realize years have passed, yet nothing inside you has evolved. Growth is not passive. It doesn't happen because you simply exist. Growth demands friction, struggle, resistance. It requires you to challenge the limits you've accepted. Comfort tells you that what you're doing now is enough, but deep down, you know you're capable of far more than your comfort zone will ever allow you to reach. Think about a muscle. If you never stress it, never put it under tension, never tear the fibers with weight and resistance, it never grows. It stays the same. And in time, without challenge, it actually weakens. Life works the same way. When you remain comfortable, when you stop pressing against the resistance of life, your potential shrinks, your abilities dull, your edge fades. Comfort kills that edge. And when you lose your edge, you lose the hunger that drives growth. You stop asking more of yourself. And that is when your dreams begin to rot. Comfort is disguised as peace, but it is really stagnation. It feels good because it spares you from the burn of effort, from the sting of failure, from the weight of risk. But every time you choose comfort, you are actually choosing to trade progress for momentary ease. You're sacrificing who you could be tomorrow for the soft blanket of who you are today. And that choice, repeated over and over, kills growth before it even has the chance to live. The irony is that what feels comfortable today will eventually become uncomfortable in the long run. Comfort breeds complacency. Complacency breeds mediocrity, and mediocrity leads to regret. You will never hear someone on their deathbed say they regret the risks they took, the struggles they endured, the challenges they fought through. No, the deepest regrets come from the comfort. They never dared to step out of the safe choices that chained them. The growth they killed with their own hands because they refused to be uncomfortable for a season. Every great transformation in history, whether it was an athlete, a leader, an inventor, or a simple individual who changed their life, came from rejecting comfort. They embraced the unknown. They welcomed the grind. They chose to live in the tension of discomfort because they knew that is where growth is birthed. The moment you let comfort dictate your choices, you forfeit that path. Comfort tells you to hit snooze instead of waking up early. Comfort tells you to eat the easy meal instead of fueling your body with discipline. Comfort tells you to stay in the job you hate rather than chase the passion that scares you. Comfort whispers that today is fine, tomorrow will come, there's no rush. But growth screams the opposite. Push now, stretch now, sacrifice now, because tomorrow is not promised. The dangerous part about comfort is not just that it slows growth. It rewires your mindset to fear change. Once you get cozy with the familiar, you start building walls against anything new, even when that new thing could be the breakthrough you've been praying for. Comfort makes you defensive against growth because growth always demands change. And if your heart has been lulled into the rhythm of the easy path, the call to change feels like an attack. That is how comfort kills not only growth, but the very desire for growth. It sedates you. It numbs your hunger. It convinces you that dreaming bigger is reckless, that trying harder is unnecessary, that wanting more is selfish. And in doing so, it murders your potential silently, quietly, like a slow poison you don't even notice until it's too late. Growth requires discomfort because discomfort is the signal that you are stretching beyond your limits. It is the evidence that you are in motion, that you are evolving, that you are becoming more than what you were yesterday. Comfort kills growth by stripping away those signals. It tricks you into believing that the absence of pain means the presence of success. But true success has always been found in the presence of resistance. Every inch of progress is earned through discomfort, whether it's the physical pain of training, the emotional weight of discipline, or the mental strain of learning what you don't yet know. Consider the seed that breaks through the soil. In its comfort, buried beneath the dirt, it is safe. But safe means it never becomes what it was meant to be. For the seed to grow, it must be broken. It must push against the weight of the soil. It must stretch toward the sun. It must endure storms and drought. Comfort would have kept it a seed forever. Growth demanded its breaking. That same principle applies to you. As long as you choose the soil of comfort, you will remain buried. To grow, you must be willing to be broken, to fight upward, to face the storm. Comfort is not just the absence of challenge. It's the silent grave where potential is buried alive. The job you refuse to leave because it's safe. The relationships you settle for because they're easy. The habits you cling to because they don't require discipline. All of these are markers of comfort zones that are suffocating your growth. Every time you accept them, you're trading potential for predictability. You're allowing comfort to rob you of the greatness you could build if you had the courage to step into the unknown. The truth is, growth is never convenient. It never arrives when you feel ready. It demands sacrifice, and sacrifice is always uncomfortable. Comfort kills growth because it teaches you to avoid sacrifice. It whispers that you can have success without pain, rewards without effort, progress without risk. But anyone who has truly grown knows this is a lie. The weight of discomfort is the very tool that forges greatness. The more you resist it, the more you stay the same. The more you embrace it, the more you evolve. Comfort will tell you to stop when you've only just begun. It will convince you that you've done enough, that you can rest now, that the small victories you've achieved are sufficient. But growth is never finished. Growth is infinite. And the moment you let comfort decide you've arrived, you stop becoming who you were meant to be. Comfort kills the hunger. And once hunger dies, growth follows. Struggle builds strength. Because without resistance, there can be no progress. Without challenge, there can be no growth. Without friction, there can be no fire. Struggle is the weight room of life, and every single moment of hardship is a set, a rep, a lift that is carving power into your spirit. Too many people want the strength without the struggle. They want the results without the grind. They want the victory without the battle. But life has never worked that way. A diamond is not formed in calm waters or gentle winds. It is forged in pressure, in heat, in time. And in the same way, the strength you're searching for is not lying in the easy days, the smooth paths, the comfort of what you already know. It is waiting for you in the moments when you are stretched beyond your limit, when you're tested past your patience, when you're broken down to your core and still choose to rise again. Struggle is the classroom of character. Every hardship teaches you something about yourself, something you could never learn if life stayed soft. You learn how much you can endure, how deep your resilience runs, how powerful your will truly is. When everything is easy, you never have to dig. You never have to reach deeper. You never have to discover the reserves inside you that only appear when life gets hard. Struggle exposes you to yourself. It reveals your weaknesses, but it also reveals your strengths. It uncovers the flaws that need sharpening, but it also awakens the grit that has been asleep. And when you lean into that process, when you embrace the difficulty instead of fleeing from it, strength begins to build inside you, brick by brick, rep by rep. Imagine a fighter who never trains, who never takes a punch, who never bleeds in the ring. When the real fight comes, he has nothing. His body has no scars. His mind has no toughness. His heart has no proof of endurance. But the one who has struggled, who has been beaten down, who has fought through pain and risen to defeat, he carries strength that cannot be faked. Struggle gives you scars, but those scars are your armor. They are the evidence that you can be wounded and still continue broken and still move forward, knocked down and still stand again. That is strength, and it cannot be bought. It cannot be gifted. It must be earned through the grind of struggle. Struggle builds strength because it strips away illusions. When you face difficulty, the excuses that you once leaned on start to collapse. The comfort that once protected you falls apart. The lies you told yourself about your limits are exposed. In that moment, when struggle strips you bare, you have only two options: surrender or build. And when you choose to build, when you choose to fight through, when you choose to stay in the fire long enough, strength is born. You realize you didn't break. You realize you didn't quit. You realize you had more inside you than you ever thought possible. That realization is strength, and it can only be birthed in struggle. Every great story of greatness is also a story of struggle. Athletes who clawed their way from nothing, leaders who faced rejection after rejection, dreamers who failed 100 times before one success. What separates them is not luck. It is strength forged in struggle. They are who they are because of the pain they endured, because of the weight they carried, because of the mountains they climbed. Without those struggles, their strength would never have been built, and their stories would not inspire anyone. Struggle is the birthplace of inspiration, because it's the place where strength is born. There is a paradox that people run from, but cannot escape the very thing you fear. The struggle, the hardship, the difficulty is the thing that makes you strong enough to reach the life you want. If you avoid the struggle, you avoid the strength. If you resist the challenge, you resist the growth. If you flee the hardship, you flee the greatness that could be yours. Struggle is not your enemy. Struggle is your trainer, your coach, your gym, your battlefield. It is the sharpening stone that grinds away the dullness and leaves you sharp enough to cut through obstacles. Every tear, every setback, every failure, every sleepless night, every ounce of pain is a rep that builds your strength. Consider the storm. Trees that never face the wind grow weak roots. Roots that snap when pressure comes. But the trees that survive storm after storm, the ones that are bent and beaten but still standing, they grow roots so deep, so strong, that no storm can uproot them. Struggle does the same for you. It deepens your roots. It anchors you in resilience. It gives you the kind of foundation that cannot be shaken by the minor storms of life. Without those storms, without that struggle, you remain shallow, vulnerable, easily broken. With them, you become unshakable. Struggle also builds strength by teaching you patience. In the midst of hardship, you cannot rush the process. You cannot skip the steps. You cannot fast forward to the end. You must endure. You must persist. You must carry the weight longer than you want to. That endurance builds a strength of spirit that nothing else can. Patience is not passive. It is active resilience, the willingness to remain in the process, even when it hurts, even when it seems endless. And that kind of patience, born in the struggle, becomes strength that carries you through every season of life. When you struggle, you also learn perspective. You learn to value what you once took for granted. You begin to appreciate the simple victories, the small wins, the progress you might have ignored if life was easy. Struggle sharpens your gratitude, and gratitude strengthens your spirit. It teaches you not to waste the strength you've gained, not to squander the opportunities you've fought for, not to disrespect the progress that was paid for in pain. People often ask for strength, but pray for ease. They don't realize those two cannot coexist. If life is always easy, you will never be strong. If you are always comfortable, you will never grow. If you are always spared from struggle, you will always remain weak. Strength is not a gift, it is a reward. And the price of that reward is struggle. Every setback you've faced, every heartbreak you've endured, every mountain you've climbed has been building you. The strength you carry today is the sum of every struggle you've survived. And the strength you need tomorrow is hidden inside the struggles you're facing today. Struggle is not just something you go through. It is something that goes through you, shaping you, molding you, transforming you into someone capable of more than you imagined. Struggle builds strength because it teaches you that failure is not final. When you fight through failure and keep moving, you learn that failure is just feedback, just a teacher, just another way to lift. Every failure endured is a layer of strength gained. Every disappointment survived is a foundation stone for resilience. Every battle lost, but continued is a scar that adds to your armor. And when you carry that armor, you walk differently, you speak differently, you live differently. You live with the knowledge that no matter what comes, you have been through worse and you have grown stronger because of it. Struggle is the forge, and you are the metal. The heat, the hammer, the fire, it hurts, but it shapes. Every strike is painful, but every strike is progress. Without the hammer, without the fire, you remain unshaped, unformed, fragile. With them, you are molded into strength, into power, into resilience that cannot be broken. That is the purpose of struggle, to refine you, to shape you, to prepare you for the weight of destiny. Pain produces purpose because pain is not random. It is not meaningless. It is not an accident in your story. Pain is a signal, a teacher, a compass pointing you towards something deeper than the surface of your life. Every wound, every heartbreak, every loss, every failure carries within it the seeds of direction. Pain forces you to stop, to feel, to confront, to search. And in that searching, you discover why you are here, what matters most, what you cannot live without, and what you are willing to fight for. People spend years chasing comfort, chasing pleasure, chasing ease, but they never find true purpose there. Purpose is rarely found on the mountaintop of happiness. It is discovered in the valleys of pain. Because when you are stripped down to nothing, when you are broken open by hardship, when you are left with questions that comfort can't answer, you begin to see clearly what your life was meant to be about. Pain produces purpose because pain awakens you. Comfort keeps you asleep, moving through life half awake, accepting mediocrity, settling for routine. Pain shakes you, it rattles you, it interrupts your numbness. That breakup, that betrayal, that diagnosis, that failure, those are alarms that jolt you awake and remind you that life is not infinite, that time is not guaranteed, that what you do here matters. Pain becomes the fire alarm of the soul, demanding that you stop ignoring the deeper calling on your life. And once you're awake, once you're alert, you can't go back to sleepwalking. You begin to search for meaning, and that search births purpose. Pain produces purpose because pain reveals what matters. When you go through hardship, trivial things lose their shine. You stop caring about distractions, about shallow recognition, about temporary pleasures. Pain strips away the unnecessary and leaves you with clarity. You begin to recognize what deserves your energy, what deserves your love, what deserves your life. People who have suffered deeply often have the most powerful sense of purpose because they've seen what is fragile, they've faced what is fleeting, they've lost what they thought was permanent. That perspective changes how you live. It teaches you not to waste time, not to waste gifts, not to waste opportunities. Purpose is born in that clarity, and pain is the one that delivers it. Think about some of the greatest movements, the most powerful inventions, the most influential leaders in history. Almost all of them were birthed out of pain. People who lost loved ones and dedicated their lives to curing disease. People who faced injustice and gave their lives to fighting for freedom. People who grew up in poverty and built systems to help others rise. Their purpose wasn't created in ease. It wasn't formed in luxury. It was born from wounds. It was shaped by suffering. Pain gave them a reason bigger than themselves, a mission that outlived their individual story. Pain became the soil from which their purpose grew, and without that pain, the world would never have received the gift of their purpose. Pain produces purpose because pain humbles you. It shows you that you are not invincible, not untouchable, not immune to life's blows. And in that humility, you learn empathy. You begin to understand the struggles of others. You begin to see the world with compassion. You begin to carry not only your pain, but the pain of those around you. That empathy becomes a foundation for purpose, because purpose is rarely about yourself alone. Purpose always expands outward. It touches others. It serves others. It lifts others. Pain teaches you how to connect with the hurting, how to speak to the broken, how to stand with those who cannot stand alone. Without pain, your life will be self-centered. With pain, your life can become selfless, and in selflessness lies the deepest kind of purpose. Pain produces purpose because pain forces you to grow. It demands that you become stronger, wiser, more resilient, more determined. When you are in pain, you have two options: shrink or rise. If you choose to rise, the strength you build in that process becomes part of your purpose. It becomes the testimony you carry, the story you tell, the proof that others can overcome too. People are not inspired by those who never hurt. They are inspired by those who hurt and healed, by those who fell and got back up, by those who carried scars but still moved forward. Your pain is not wasted when you turn it into fuel, when you transform it into something meaningful, when you let it be the foundation for your calling. Pain produces purpose because pain teaches endurance. Easy times never teach you to push beyond your limits. Only pain does that. Only pain demands that you keep moving when everything inside you wants to quit. Only pain teaches you the art of perseverance, the ability to keep showing up when nothing is going your way. And that endurance becomes critical to your purpose, because any mission worth living for will require long battles, difficult seasons, and years of unseen effort. Without the endurance that pain gives you, you would abandon your purpose the first time it gets hard. With that endurance, you have the grit to carry it through to the end. Pain produces purpose because pain shows you who you are. When you are comfortable, you can hide behind masks, behind roles, behind titles. But when you are in pain, the mask is ripped off. The real you is exposed. And sometimes that revelation hurts more than the pain itself. You see your flaws, your insecurities, your weaknesses, but you also see your courage, your resilience, your strength. And in that raw truth, you discover who you were created to be. Purpose begins with self-discovery, and pain is often the door that opens it. Pain produces purpose because pain gives you a testimony. Your scars are not just reminders of what hurt you. They are evidence of what you survived. They are proof that you can endure, that you can rise, that you can heal. And when you share that testimony, when you use your pain to help others, your purpose comes alive. The very thing you thought would destroy you becomes the thing that empowers you to give life to others. Pain becomes recycled into power, and that power fuels purpose. There is something about pain that sharpens vision. When you hurt, you begin to ask questions you would never ask in times of ease. Why am I here? What am I meant to do? What truly matters? Those questions are not comfortable, but they are purposeful. They force you to look beyond the surface of life, beyond the temporary, beyond the shallow distractions. They push you toward meaning, and meaning is the heart of purpose. Without pain, you would never ask those questions. Without pain, you would never search. Without pain, you would never find. Pain produces purpose because it creates passion. The causes people fight hardest for are often the ones tied to their deepest pain. The mother who lost a child fights for children everywhere. The survivor of abuse speaks up for the voiceless. The one who knew hunger builds systems to feed the starving. Their passion burns because it is fueled by pain, and that passion gives their purpose unstoppable momentum. Pain ignites a fire that comfort could never spark, and that fire becomes the driving force of a purposeful life. Pain produces purpose because pain reveals resilience. You don't know how strong you are until strong is your only option. You don't know how much you can endure until endurance is the only choice. You don't know how much you can give until giving is the only way forward. Pain uncovers those hidden reserves, those untapped depths, those silent strengths. And once you've seen them, once you felt that power inside you, you realize your life was never meant to be small. You were meant to channel that strength into something larger, something lasting, something purposeful. Pain produces purpose because pain creates urgency. When you hurt, you stop wasting time. You stop procrastinating. You stop living like tomorrow is guaranteed. Pain teaches you the fragility of life. And in that awareness, you feel the urgency to live fully, to chase your calling, to pour yourself out while you still can. Purpose thrives in urgency. It dies in procrastination. Pain breathes urgency into your spirit, and that urgency pushes you toward purpose with relentless force. Pain produces purpose because pain transforms your perspective on failure. When you've been through real pain, the sting of failure feels different. It no longer defines you. It no longer paralyzes you. It no longer convinces you to quit. Failure becomes just another form of pain. And because you've learned how to transform pain, you learn how to transform failure too. You use it as fuel, as feedback, as redirection. And that ability to transform failure into progress is a core part of living with purpose. Pain produces purpose because it carves out empathy. It makes you see people differently. It softens your heart. It enlarges your compassion. You can't walk past people the same way after you've suffered. You can't ignore needs the same way after you've been in need. Pain trains your heart to care more deeply, to listen more closely, to serve more intentionally. And that compassion becomes a compass for your purpose, guiding you toward the people and the causes that need you most. Pain produces purpose because it reminds you that life is short. You are not promised tomorrow. You are not guaranteed more time. And when pain strikes, that truth is undeniable. It pushes you to stop delaying your dreams, to stop hiding from your calling, to stop waiting for the perfect conditions that will never come. Pain pushes you to step into purpose now, to live with urgency, to pour out your gifts today. Fear signals opportunity because fear is the body's natural alarm that you are standing at the edge of something significant, something unknown, something that carries the power to change you. Most people interpret fear as a warning to retreat, a reason to stop, a signal that danger is ahead. But fear is often the clearest sign that you are on the path toward growth, toward transformation, toward possibility. Fear doesn't arise when you're doing what you've already mastered, when you're staying inside the walls of routine, when you're walking the same path you've always walked. Fear shows up when you're stepping into uncharted territory, when you're challenging yourself to become more, when you're about to unlock a part of yourself that comfort has kept hidden. Fear is not your enemy. It is the compass pointing you directly toward the opportunities that matter most. Fear signals opportunity because it awakens you. When you feel fear, your senses sharpen. Your focus intensifies. Your body prepares for action. Fear pulls you out of autopilot and demands your attention. That heightened awareness is a gift. It is a reminder that what you are about to face carries weight, that it matters, that it has the power to change your trajectory. Fear is not the obstacle. It is the confirmation that you are in the right place, standing at the doorway of opportunity. If there were no opportunity on the other side, fear wouldn't even bother to rise up inside you. Fear signals opportunity because it reveals potential. If you are afraid to speak on stage, it's because deep down you know your voice carries the potential to impact lives. If you are afraid to start that business, it's because you know there is potential for success, potential to build something greater than yourself. If you are afraid to pursue that relationship, it's because there is potential for connection, for love, for growth. Fear clings to the things that matter most because those are the areas where your growth and your greatness reside. The presence of fear is not proof that you should turn back. It is proof that you have something worth pursuing on the other side. Fear signals opportunity because fear and excitement live side by side. The physiological response of fear, racing heart, sweaty palms, butterflies in the stomach, is nearly identical to the response of excitement. The only difference is the story you attach to it. When you feel that rush in your body, you can choose to name it fear and retreat, or you can choose to name it excitement and move forward. The truth is, those nerves are a signal that you are alive, that you are on the edge of growth, that something powerful is about to happen. If you reframe fear as opportunity, you unlock a path that most people will never walk because they let the sensation paralyze them instead of propel them. Fear signals opportunity because it tests your courage. Courage is not the absence of fear. It is the decision to move forward in spite of fear. If there were no fear, there would be no courage. If there were no risk, there would be no bravery. Fear gives you the chance to prove to yourself that you can rise above your doubts, that you can step into uncertainty and still move with strength. Every time you choose to face fear, you reinforce your courage. And every time you reinforce your courage, you expand the boundaries of what is possible in your life. That expansion is opportunity realized, and it is fear that marks the door you must walk through to access it. Fear signals opportunity because it forces you to grow. The very things you are afraid of, speaking, risking, failing, trying again, are the things that stretch you. When you face them, you discover new skills, new resilience, new parts of yourself that you didn't know existed. The opportunity is not just external, the job, the relationship, the success. It is also internal. It is the opportunity to evolve, to transform, to become a bigger version of yourself. Fear points to where that evolution is possible. If you avoid fear, you avoid the chance to grow. If you embrace it, you unlock opportunities that will carry you to new levels of strength and purpose. Fear signals opportunity because it is a sign you care. You don't fear about things that don't matter to you. You don't fear the outcome of something meaningless. Fear arises when your heart is invested, when your values are engaged, when the stakes are high. That fear is telling you that this moment is worth it, that this challenge is meaningful, that this opportunity is tied to something deep within you. Instead of seeing fear as a reason to run, see it as proof that this opportunity is connected to your passion, your calling, your destiny. The greater the fear, the more significant the opportunity hiding behind it. Fear signals opportunity because it breaks the illusion of control. Fear reminds you that you are stepping into territory where outcomes are not guaranteed, where success is not automatic, where risk is real. That uncertainty is uncomfortable, but it is also the space where life is richest. If everything were certain, if everything were guaranteed, life would lose its depth. Fear signals that you are entering the space of possibility, where things could go wrong, but also where things could go magnificently right. The presence of fear is the proof that the stakes are high enough to change your story, and that is the very definition of opportunity. Fear signals opportunity because it shows you where freedom lies. The things you fear most often hold power over you. Public speaking, rejection, failure, criticism. These fears are chains that keep people bound. But when you face them, when you walk through them, when you break those chains, you gain freedom. The opportunity is not just what's on the other side of the fear, it's the liberation from the fear itself. Each time you confront fear, You reclaim a piece of yourself. You expand your capacity. You open doors that were once locked. That freedom is opportunity in its purest form. Fear signals opportunity because it connects you with faith. When you are afraid, you are forced to trust in something bigger than yourself. You realize you cannot control every outcome. You cannot predict every detail. You cannot guarantee success. And in that space, you learn to trust your preparation, your resilience, your vision, your purpose. Fear pushes you to believe even when you don't feel certain. That act of faith becomes the bridge to opportunity, carrying you across the gap that fear tried to keep you from crossing. Fear signals opportunity because it separates the ordinary from the extraordinary. Most people run when fear rises. They back away. They shrink, they retreat to comfort. But those who see fear as a signal, those who move toward it instead of away, those are the ones who access extraordinary opportunities. Fear becomes the filter that determines who will live small and who will live bold, who will stay in the shadows and who will step into the light, who will settle for less and who will chase what is possible. Fear marks the place where greatness begins, and only those willing to face it ever find out what they are capable of. Fear signals opportunity because it shapes your story. Every great story requires risk, requires tension, requires the presence of fear. Without fear, the hero's journey is flat. Without fear, there is no triumph, no overcoming, no victory. Your life is the same. The chapters that will inspire others, the chapters that will define you, the chapters that you will look back on with pride. Those are the ones that were marked by fear. The opportunity hidden in fear is not only the external reward, but the story you get to carry, the story that becomes part of your legacy. Fear signals opportunity because it uncovers your calling. The things that scare you most are often tied directly to your gifts. You fear speaking because you were meant to speak. You fear leading because you were meant to lead. You fear creating because you were meant to create. Fear circles the areas where your potential is greatest because those are the areas that threaten the status quo, the areas where your impact will be felt, the areas where your destiny resides. If you pay attention to your fears instead of fleeing them, you will often discover the exact direction your purpose is calling you to pursue. Fear signals opportunity because it teaches resilience. Every time you face fear and move forward, you build the habit of courage. You teach yourself that fear is not fatal, that it cannot control you, that you can act even while afraid. That habit becomes a powerful weapon because opportunities will continue to appear and fear will continue to accompany them. The more you practice facing fear, the more resilient you become, the more ready you are to seize opportunity after opportunity without hesitation. Fear signals opportunity because it strips away ego. When you are afraid, you cannot pretend to have it all together. You are vulnerable, you are uncertain, you are human. And in that vulnerability, you are open to learning, open to growth, open to guidance. That humility allows you to approach opportunity with sincerity, with hunger, with authenticity. Fear humbles you enough to take the leap without arrogance, to embrace the process without pretending you know it all. That humility becomes a strength, and it shapes the way you walk into the opportunities fear is pointing toward. Fear signals opportunity because it keeps you from complacency. Without fear, you stay in the familiar. You repeat the same patterns. You live in the same cycle. Fear is the jolt that tells you there is more, that you are being called higher, that you cannot stay where you are. It is the inner alarm that challenges you to keep moving, keep stretching, keep risking. Without that alarm, you would settle. With it, you are propelled toward growth. And that growth always carries opportunity with it. Fear signals opportunity because it reveals passion. The areas where you feel the most fear are often the areas where your heart is most deeply invested. Fear doesn't show up around things you don't care about. It shows up where the stakes matter, where your soul is engaged, where your future is at risk. That fear is the shadow of passion. And passion is the heartbeat of opportunity. If you trace your fear back to its source, you often uncover what you truly care about. And that discovery leads you straight into the opportunities aligned with your deepest values. Fear signals opportunity because it teaches you to rely on discipline. When fear shows up, emotions are loud, doubts are heavy, anxiety is strong. Discipline becomes the anchor that allows you to move anyway. Facing fear teaches you that emotion does not dictate action, that you can act according to principle, according to vision, according to purpose, even when fear is screaming at you to stop. That discipline is the foundation of opportunity, because great opportunities are rarely comfortable, unless discipline can step into them consistently. Fear signals opportunity because it creates breakthroughs. The biggest leaps in your life will almost always be preceded by fear. The decision to move to a new city, to start a new career, to commit to a new relationship, to launch a new project, every breakthrough moment will carry fear alongside it. The greater the fear, the greater the potential breakthrough. If you avoid fear, you avoid the very moments that could change your life forever. If you face it, you unlock doors that lead to levels you never imagined. Discipline creates freedom, because without discipline, you are enslaved to impulses, chained to distractions, and trapped in cycles that keep you from reaching your true potential. Most people think freedom means doing whatever you want, whenever you want, with no restrictions. But that kind of living doesn't lead to freedom. It leads to bondage. It leads to addiction, to laziness, to regret, to a life controlled by emotion instead of direction. Real freedom is the ability to choose your path and stay on it, the ability to control yourself instead of being controlled by everything around you, the ability to sacrifice what is easy in the moment for what is meaningful in the long run. Discipline is the key that unlocks that freedom, because discipline gives you power over yourself. Discipline creates freedom because discipline builds structure. Without structure, life becomes chaos. And in chaos, you are constantly reacting instead of creating. A person without discipline is tossed by the wind of circumstances, by the pull of emotions, by the pressure of other people. But a person with discipline sets their own foundation, designs their own routine, lives by their own principles. That structure doesn't trap you, it frees you. It frees you from wasted time, from wasted energy, from wasted potential. When your day is anchored by discipline, you gain the freedom to focus on what matters, to pursue your vision, to protect your energy. Discipline creates freedom because discipline builds habits. The actions you repeat shape the life you live. If you lack discipline, your habits will be chosen by comfort, by convenience, by temptation. But when you cultivate discipline, you create habits that align with your values, with your goals, with your calling. Those habits eventually take over, making the hard things automatic. Waking up early, training your body, feeding your mind, pursuing your goals, they stop being battles of willpower and become patterns of life. And when those habits are locked in, you are free. This is my last one, because you no longer fight yourself every day. You are free to pour your energy into building instead of resisting, into progressing instead of procrastinating. Discipline creates freedom because it builds consistency. Success is not built in a single moment. It is built in repetition, in persistence, in showing up day after day after day. Discipline gives you the power to keep showing up even when you don't feel like it, even when motivation has faded, even when emotions tell you to quit. That consistency compounds over time, creating results that become unstoppable. And those results bring freedom. Freedom to live at a higher level. Freedom to provide more for your family. Freedom to walk in the confidence comes only from earning what you have. Without discipline, you will always depend on fleeting motivation. With discipline, you are free to build momentum that carries you no matter how you feel. Discipline creates freedom because it conquers temptation. Every day, you are bombarded with distractions, entertainment that wastes hours, food that harms your body, excuses that sound comfortable, shortcuts that promise ease but rob you of growth. Without discipline, you become a slave to those temptations. You say yes when you should say no. You stop when you should keep going. You compromise when you should stand firm. But with discipline, you gain control. You gain the power to deny what weakens you and embrace what strengthens you. That power gives you freedom because you are no longer at the mercy of every temptation that crosses your path. You are in control of your choices, and that control is the essence of freedom. Discipline creates freedom because it prepares you for opportunity. Opportunities don't wait for you to be ready. They show up suddenly, and only those who have prepared through discipline are able to seize them. The athlete who trained in the dark is free to perform in the light. The student who studied when no one was watching is free to excel when the test comes. The leader who stayed disciplined in learning and growth is free to lead when the moment demands it. Discipline is the preparation that makes you free to step boldly into opportunity instead of shrinking back in fear. Without discipline, opportunities pass you by because you are not ready. With discipline, you are always prepared, and preparation creates freedom. Discipline creates freedom because it protects your mind. A scattered, distracted, undisciplined mind is vulnerable to anxiety, to fear, to negativity. But a disciplined mind, trained through focus, through practice, through intentional thought, gains freedom from chaos. When you discipline your thinking, you gain the ability to direct your energy toward solutions instead of problems, toward hope instead of despair, toward action instead of paralysis. That freedom of thought is one of the greatest freedoms because everything in your life begins in the mind. Discipline creates freedom because it strengthens your body. Without discipline, your body becomes weak, sluggish, unhealthy, incapable of carrying the weight of your dreams. But when you discipline yourself to move, to train, to nourish your body with care, you gain freedom. Freedom to perform, freedom to endure, freedom to live with energy instead of exhaustion. Physical discipline gives you the freedom to chase your purpose without being limited by your body. It gives you freedom to show up strong in every area of life. Discipline creates freedom because it protects your time. Time is the most valuable resource you have, and without discipline, it slips away into wasted hours, wasted days, wasted years. Discipline teaches you to say no to distractions, no to unnecessary commitments, no to anything that does not align with your vision. That ability to guard your time gives you freedom. Freedom to invest in your dreams, in your growth, in your relationships, in the things that truly matter. People who lack discipline are always busy but never free. People who live with discipline are free to live intentionally, to make their time count, to leave a legacy. Discipline creates freedom because it builds trust with yourself. Every time you set a standard and keep it, every time you make a promise to yourself and fulfill it, you build self-trust. That trust is the foundation of confidence. It is the assurance that when you say you will do something, you will follow through. Without discipline, you betray yourself daily. You say you will change, but you don't. You say you will show up, but you quit. That self-betrayal destroys confidence, leaving you enslaved to doubt and insecurity. But when you live with discipline, you become free because you know you can rely on yourself. You know you can trust yourself. You know you can face any challenge with integrity. Discipline creates freedom because it multiplies opportunities. The world opens doors for those who are reliable, for those who are consistent, for those who are disciplined enough to deliver when it counts. Employers, teams, communities, families, they trust disciplined people because discipline proves you are dependable. That trust creates opportunities, and those opportunities create freedom. Without discipline, doors remain closed because no one can rely on you. With discipline, doors swing open, and you are free to walk through them. Discipline creates freedom because it separates you from mediocrity. Most people live undisciplined lives, chasing comfort, chasing ease, chasing short-term pleasure. That path leads to average results, to wasted potential, to regret. Discipline sets you apart because discipline is rare. It makes you uncommon in a world that celebrates convenience. And that uncommonness creates freedom because you rise above the limits that trap others. You live a life that others dream about but never achieve. Not because you were lucky, but because you were disciplined. Discipline creates freedom because it prepares you for adversity. Life will test you. Storms will come. Setbacks will strike. Pain will hit. Without discipline, you crumble under the weight of hardship. But when you have lived with discipline, when you have trained yourself to do hard things consistently, adversity does not break you. You are free to endure it, free to rise from it, free to keep moving in spite of it. Discipline is the armor that allows you to walk through storms with strength. That armor gives you freedom because it ensures you are not controlled by circumstances, but by the principles you live by. Discipline creates freedom because it builds momentum. Small disciplined actions repeated over time create massive results. Every day you wake up early, every workout you complete, every page you read, every step you take toward your goal is a brick in the wall of your future. That wall becomes strong enough to support your dreams, and that strength gives you freedom. Freedom to chase bigger goals, to live with confidence, to know you are not starting from scratch every day. Discipline creates momentum, and momentum is freedom because momentum carries you forward even when you don't feel strong enough to push. Discipline creates freedom because it demands sacrifice, and sacrifice always precedes reward. The hours you sacrifice for training, the comfort you sacrifice for growth, the pleasures you sacrifice for purpose, they are not losses, they are investments. And those investments pay dividends in the form of freedom. Freedom to live a life of meaning instead of regret. Freedom to provide for your family. Freedom to walk in purpose instead of wandering aimlessly. Without discipline, you avoid sacrifice. And by avoiding sacrifice, you forfeit freedom. With discipline, you embrace sacrifice. And by embracing it, you inherit freedom. Discipline creates freedom because it aligns your actions with your vision. Dreams without discipline remain dreams. Goals without discipline remain words. Vision without discipline remains fantasy. Discipline is what bridges the gap between intention and reality. And once you have that bridge, you are free to cross into the life you envisioned, the life you designed, the life you were meant to live. Without discipline, you remain stuck on the side of wishing. With discipline, you are free to step into the side of becoming. Discipline creates freedom because it silences regret. Regret is one of the heaviest chains a person can carry. The regret of wasted time, wasted talent, wasted opportunities. Discipline frees you from that weight because discipline ensures you use what you've been given. It ensures you leave nothing on the table, that you maximize your potential, that you live with intention. That freedom is priceless because there is no greater peace than knowing you gave everything you had, that you lived fully, that you held nothing back. Legacy demands sacrifice because nothing of true value, nothing that lasts beyond your own lifetime, is ever built without a cost. A legacy is not a gift you stumble into. It's not a trophy you're handed. It's not a story you get to write without bleeding into the pages. Legacy is forged through the grind, through the choices that most people are unwilling to make, through the pain you're willing to endure that others avoid. If you want to leave something behind that speaks louder than your name, louder than your possessions, louder than the years you walk this earth, you must be willing to sacrifice comfort, time, energy, ego, and even relationships that don't align with your purpose. Legacy does not come cheap. It demands a price, and that price is sacrifice. Legacy demands sacrifice because the road to building something eternal is long, lonely, and filled with obstacles that test your willpower. People talk about wanting to be remembered, but few are willing to pay what remembrance costs. They want the honor without the hunger, the recognition without the rejection, the crown without the cross. But you can't carve a legacy with soft hands, with excuses, with half-hearted effort. The chisel that shapes your legacy is sacrifice. Late nights when everyone else is sleeping, early mornings when no one is watching, missed pleasures, skipped comforts, relentless focus. Every sacrifice becomes a brick in the monument of your legacy. And that monument will either stand tall or crumble, depending on how much you are willing to give up. Legacy demands sacrifice because legacy is about impact, and impact requires you to pour out more than you keep for yourself. The life that is only about self-preservation never becomes a legacy. It dies when you die. But the life that is about service, about giving, about sowing seeds into the future, lives on through generations. And to live that way, you must sacrifice selfishness. You must sacrifice the need for instant gratification. You must sacrifice the desire to always be comfortable. It's not about what you keep, it's about what you give away. The sacrifices you make for others, your family, your team, your community, your calling, are the fingerprints of your legacy. Legacy demands sacrifice because it forces you to live by principles instead of preferences. Preferences change based on moods, on emotions, on circumstances. Principles don't move. But to live by principle, you must sacrifice convenience. You must sacrifice the easy path, the shortcuts, the compromises that could have made your life smoother, but would have weakened your character. Principles cost something, and that cost is paid through sacrifice. But those sacrifices are what make your legacy unshakable, because people don't remember you for how easy your life was. They remember you for the stands you took, the battles you fought, the storms you endured without bending. Legacy demands sacrifice because greatness always comes with isolation. There will be seasons where you are alone, where no one claps, where no one believes, where no one understands why you work the way you do, why you train the way you do, why you say no to things everyone else is saying yes to. That isolation is sacrifice. You will have to let go of approval, of validation, of being liked by everyone, because legacy isn't built in popularity. It's built in perseverance. While others chase attention, you will be in the dark paying the price of sacrifice, and only later will the light of your legacy reveal why those sacrifices mattered. Legacy demands sacrifice because your time is limited, and every moment spent on distractions, on meaningless pursuits, on wasted habits is time stolen from your legacy. To build something that outlives you, you must sacrifice the trivial for the eternal. You must sacrifice the temporary for the lasting. You must sacrifice the comfort of today for the impact of tomorrow. Time is the currency of legacy, and every hour you spend is either an investment into the story you'll leave behind or a withdrawal that leaves your story empty. Legacy demands you to be ruthless with your time, to guard it with discipline, to dedicate it to the work that builds something bigger than yourself. Legacy demands sacrifice because it requires vision, and vision demands focus. To keep your eyes locked on where you're going, you must sacrifice the distractions trying to pull you away. You must sacrifice comparison because comparing yourself to others steals the energy you need for your own journey. You must sacrifice doubt because doubt paralyzes movement and legacy requires action. You must sacrifice excuses because excuses rob potential, and potential left unused leaves no legacy behind. Vision is costly. It requires tunnel vision, laser focus, relentless commitment, and all of that can only exist when you've sacrificed the noise. Legacy demands sacrifice because it requires resilience, and resilience is only born in pain. To have a legacy worth remembering, you must go through storms that test your character, through failures that strip away your pride, through hardships that demand everything in you. Every scar you carry is proof of the sacrifices you made to keep moving forward, to keep believing, to keep building. Without sacrifice, you cannot endure the weight of legacy because legacy is heavy. It's a mantle, not a medal. And to carry it, you must be willing to sacrifice the luxury of quitting, the convenience of walking away, the temptation to settle. Legacy asks for your resilience, and resilience can only be forged in the fire of sacrifice. Legacy demands sacrifice because it requires humility. To build something that lasts, you must sacrifice ego. Ego wants applause now. Legacy wants impact later. Ego wants to be seen. Legacy wants to be remembered. Ego wants control. Legacy wants contribution. Humility is the sacrifice of ego, and without it, your legacy becomes fragile, built on your image instead of your impact. A true legacy demands you to be small enough to let something greater flow through you, to let your work speak louder than your pride, to let your sacrifices shape the story instead of your self-importance. Legacy demands sacrifice because it requires patience. You cannot microwave a legacy. You cannot build it in a moment, in a day, in a season. Legacy is built in years of discipline, decades of consistency, a lifetime of sacrifice. Have patience. You must sacrifice the desire for instant results. You must sacrifice the need to see everything pay off right away. You must sacrifice the frustration that whispers it's not working fast enough. Legacy rewards those who can plant seeds and water them faithfully, even if they never sit under the shade of the tree themselves. That's sacrifice, giving your best to something that may not even fully bloom until long after you are gone. Legacy demands sacrifice because it requires courage, and courage always costs something. To live courageously, you must sacrifice fear's grip on you. You must sacrifice the safe choices that keep you invisible. You must sacrifice the desire to blend in, because legacy requires standing out, even if it makes you a target. Courage asks you to sacrifice comfort, to sacrifice certainty, to sacrifice approval, because every step you take into the unknown is a declaration that your legacy is more important than your safety. Legacy demands sacrifice because it requires consistency when motivation is gone. Anyone can be motivated for a week, for a month, for a season. Legacy is not built by spurts of energy. It is built by consistent sacrifice. Waking up when you don't want to, showing up when you feel tired, pushing when you feel weak, training when you feel sore, believing when you feel doubt. That consistency is sacrifice, and it is what separates those who dream of a legacy from those who actually build one. Legacy demands sacrifice because it demands excellence, and excellence is never convenient. To produce excellence, you must sacrifice mediocrity. You must sacrifice shortcuts. You must sacrifice the urge to just get by. Excellence requires you to give more than others think is necessary, to stay longer than others are willing, to pay attention to details that others overlook. Excellence requires you to hold yourself to a standard that costs you sleep, costs you comfort, costs you popularity. That standard becomes the signature of your legacy, and every ounce of excellence is born from sacrifice. Legacy demands sacrifice because it requires faith. You cannot see the full picture of your legacy while you're building it. You don't know who your life will touch, who your sacrifices will inspire, who your story will awaken. To live with that faith, you must sacrifice doubt. You must sacrifice control. You must sacrifice the need for certainty. Faith is sacrifice. It's giving your energy, your life, your all, without guarantees. But that sacrifice is what makes legacy possible. Because legacy is always bigger than you, always stretching into places you'll never see, always reaching people you'll never meet. Legacy demands sacrifice because it transforms your pain into purpose. The struggles you endure, the losses you carry, the failures you suffer, when you sacrifice your pride and let those wounds become lessons, they shape the depth of your legacy. People are not inspired by perfect lives. They are inspired by those who suffered, sacrificed, and still stood strong. Your sacrifices become the evidence that your legacy was not given to you. It was earned, it was fought for, it was paid for. Every tear, every sleepless night, every trial becomes part of the weight your legacy carries. Legacy demands sacrifice because it requires discipline, And discipline itself is a lifelong sacrifice. Discipline means saying no when you want to say yes, showing up when you want to rest, working when you want to quit. Discipline is the daily sacrifice of ease for excellence, of comfort for calling, of pleasure for purpose. And without discipline, there is no legacy, because discipline is the proof that you were willing to pay the price consistently. Legacy is not about one sacrifice. It's about a lifetime of sacrifices stitched together into a story that others will follow. Legacy demands sacrifice because it forces you to think generationally. If all you care about is yourself, your legacy ends with you. But if you're willing to sacrifice for those who come after you, then your legacy becomes eternal. You must sacrifice the short term for the long term, the immediate for the eternal, the selfish for the generational. It's not just about what you can achieve in your lifetime. It's about what you set in motion that continues long after you're gone. That requires sacrifice of ego, sacrifice of entitlement, sacrifice of the need to see all the rewards yourself. Legacy demands sacrifice because it requires love. Love always sacrifices. If you truly love your family, your people, your calling, you will sacrifice for them. Love demands you to give up your own comfort for the sake of those you care for. Love demands sleepless nights, hard work, selflessness, patience, resilience. Without sacrifice, love is just words. But when love is proven through sacrifice, it becomes the foundation of a legacy that no storm can erase.